Tonight on Joy News Prime, President Akufo-Addo said to be leading a diplomatic effort to secure coronavirus vaccines for the country as supply constraints compel authorities to postpone delivery of second doses. Meanwhile, government says it is keeping an eye on the spike in number of COVID-19 positive travelers arriving at the Kotoka International Airport.
Yes, we are aware. We've been informed about the spike, especially from some countries. So the task force is meeting as soon as possible to take a decision, get the president to approve, and then the travel advisory will be issued.
Legal practitioner and chairman of the Electronic Communications Tribunal, Kisia Jabeng, nominated by the Attorney General to replace Martin Amidu as the next special prosecutor. ECG staff begin nationwide sit-down strike to demand resignation of the managing director, Kwame Agyemang-Budu, who they accuse of not having the best interests of the company at heart. The National Labour Commission has, however, directed the staff to call off the strike and channel their grievances formally through the commission. In business, aviation analysts downplays concerns about the surge in the number of COVID-19 positive travelers arriving at the Kotoka International Airport.
That you are seeing 75 cases actually caught at the airport and not being caught in the community with a large spike of infections there is showing that the system actually works.
Have you estimated how much it costs you to idle in traffic? We have a special report on the situation on the Kasua Road. My name is Israel. Joy News Prime is coming to you live from our Final Four studios at Kokomlembe here in Accra on your digital terrestrial TV, because we're free to air, and also on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 144. This is the home of independent, fearless, credible and impactful journalism. Do stay tuned in. Today, Monday, April 26, should have been the day President Akufo-Addo and many other frontliners in the COVID-19 fight were originally scheduled to take their second dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine. It turns out, though, there are no vaccines, at least not enough, to inoculate all those who were giving the first jab, along with the president on March 1, 8 weeks ago, and the others who took their jabs in the days that followed. Officials of the Ghana Health Service had already indicated the second dose would delay by a few more weeks. But there's more uncertainty now due to supply challenges with COVID-19 vaccines the world over, mainly because the world's most powerful countries have been scrambling for them, a situation which has been compounded by the surge in coronavirus cases in India, which hosts the world's biggest vaccine production facility. But Health Minister Kweku Agyemang-Manu says the president is stepping in as part of a diplomatic effort to convince countries that have excess doses to release them to Ghana. Head of our health desk, Fred Smith, has more.
Ghana's vaccination program is clearly not going according to plan. Per the schedule, President Akufo-Addo and other high-ranking government officials who took their first doses on the 1st of March were required to take their second jabs today. But the Ghana Health Service was forced to extend that 8-week window to 12 weeks. Nearly 900,000 other Ghanaians who took their jabs in March face same fate. It is a result of supply challenges prompted by significant surge in cases in India, where AstraZeneca vaccines are produced. Health Minister Kweku Agyemang-Manu admits there are serious challenges.
We have faced challenges with vaccine availability and payment structures and things like that. It is a difficult challenge. The vaccines we were expecting to be delivered by COVAX in April and May have delayed because of challenges in India. India has stopped exports, and therefore we can't have access to AstraZeneca any longer.
The WHO puts utilization of the COVID-19 vaccines delivered to West and Central Africa so far at just 26%. That provides an opportunity for countries with the capacity to take delivery of the unused vaccines and administer on its citizens. And President Akufo-Addo is himself stepping in to negotiate this. Mr. Agyemang-Manu confirms the president is already in talks with his counterparts in other countries to secure those unused vaccines.
The president is making very high-level diplomatic engagements, and we believe that may yield some results. Again, global advocacy is putting pressure on those who are sitting on some of the stocks to try to do what they are calling now as dose sharing, so that those who have the vaccines and are not using them can ship to countries that are looking seriously for them, like Ghana. They are working, and we haven't achieved any success yet, so we can't give deadlines and give predictions as to when deliveries will arrive in our country. But it will not take long.
That may be yielding some results. As UNICEF announced today, it is redistributing some 1.3 million doses of COVAX vaccines initially delivered to the Democratic Republic of Congo. The country has only used 400,000 of 1.7 million delivered to it in March, raising hopes redistribution could minimize the impact of India's supply cuts. Susie Villeneuve is UNICEF's regional advisor for health systems strengthening for West and Central Africa and has been sharing this at the Africa Vaccine Week celebration underway in Accra.
And the overall poor performance of vaccination activities in most countries requiring implementation of innovation vaccination strategy and demand generation strategy. So indeed, only 26% of COVAX vaccine supply in the West and the Southern African region has been administered so far. This is something we have to handle very carefully to see why systems are not performing well to at least use the vaccine that countries are receiving. Another issue that must be mentioned is the short shelf life of AstraZeneca vaccine, so far distributed to countries, and this requires a good preparation and implementation of implementation strategies.
For now, government remains optimistic it will be able to vaccinate those who took the first jabs between May and June. And that would be an extension of the earlier dates announced by the Ghana Health Service.
Those who had the first dose, we want to try to encourage you that we will soon get vaccines to do the second dose between the 8 to 12 weeks. But the science is even talking that beyond 12 weeks, you are even better protected if you get your second jab over the 12 weeks. So people shouldn't panic. We will get vaccines to do vaccinations. Between May and June, some of these funds will flow. Government is making efforts to procure. But again, I said availability and pricing is holding us a little bit.
Well, the question most people who have taken the first dose have on their minds is, what will be the implications of not having the second dose by the 8th week they were due to have them? Well, the answer to that question is, it's fine if so long as you take the jab by the 12th week. But how certain are we the second dose will be available by the 12th week? Joining me with the answers to that question is the Director of Public Health at the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Franklin Isiedu-Bequem. Thank you very much, Dr. Franklin Isiedu-Bequem. We also have Kwame Sapung Isiedu, a UK-based pharmacist and CDD Ghana Fellow. Thank you both for your time. But I'll start with you, Dr. Isiedu-Bequem. What's the plan for President Akufo-Addo and the others who took the first dose on March 1 and should have been due for the second dose today? Or could it be that they've received their second dose without a fanfare?
And your listeners and viewers. Yes, so I think that there's a global challenge of availability of vaccines. But I think that our government and the presidency have been working on trying to get a reasonable number of vaccines for us. And we are very certain that in the next few days we'll get some vaccine for the second dose.
All right, you're taking. I thought I heard you say the next few days.
Yes, as I'm saying that I think, as I said, we have not been given off the idea that we the second dose, and we want to assure Ghanaians that in the next few days or weeks we will get the second dose.
All right, so you say days and then it turns to weeks. If you could be a little more clearer on when specific.
Because the issue is that when it comes to vaccine, originally for our first batch, COVAX said we're going to get it in March, and we're getting it in February.
Yeah.
So the days will tend to vary a bit. That's why we are saying that not too distant, we will get a reasonable number of vaccines.
All right, what is this reasonable number that you're talking about? Enough for all 800,000 who have received their first dose so far?
So, see, I think that we are, as I said, we have never given up the idea that we will get the Ghanaians vaccinated. And we are exploring all avenues, whether it's the COVAX facility or other bilateral or multilateral avenues. And we want to assure Ghanaians that we will get the reasonable number of vaccines for Ghanaians. And let me say that if you look at the protocol, it's about 8 to 12 weeks. And we are just entering the 8 weeks. So we have a reasonable number of time to get schedules for Ghanaians.
All right, but the health minister didn't sound that optimistic. He's talking about May, June. Are we looking at a situation that we may not have the second dose available by the 12th week? And should we be preparing for an eventuality like that?
No, I think that see, there are several scenarios being looked at. You know, there are vaccines in Europe or even the Americas, even African countries that are not being used. If you look at the MTN allocation that we had, it was such a facility that exists. So all avenues are being explored. The countries that are not using their vaccines, get them. So that I said, we have never given up the idea. The minister and the presidency are looking all possible avenues to get the vaccines for us. So we have not reached the end of 12 weeks for us to talk about a situation whereby we are not getting the dose. We are just entering the 8 weeks, and we have a reasonable amount of time to get the second dose.
All right, I want you to hold on for me. I also have Kwame Sapong-Asiedu. He's a pharmacist and a CDD Ghana fellow. He's based in the UK. Mr. Kwame Sapong-Asiedu, I want you to explain to us, with your knowledge of the global supply chain when it comes to vaccines, should we be that optimistic that we are going to get these vaccines before the 12th week?
Good evening to all your listeners, and good evening to Kofi as well. Thanks, Israel. The first thing I would say is that there was an article published in The Economist on Saturday, the 24th of August, which quoted our health minister. And our health minister was unequivocal in saying that they had been trying to explore bilateral agreements. He had so far had 50 meetings, and it had yielded virtually nothing. To quote him, he said, nobody is listening. And then he sighed. This is an article that was published virtually 2 days ago. The other thing we need to look at is that all the vaccines that middle-income and lower-middle-income countries were hoping to get are mainly Indian-produced. And so even though India hasn't locked up, the uptick in India has affected their production capability. India has also said that they would not export any vaccines until they have immunized a significant number of their population. So that's going to affect supplies to COVAX. And in fact, COVAX has alluded to that fact today, that they would have supply challenges. So I can see where Dr. Siedu is coming from, because if you look at it critically and you listen to the program that was held in Ghana today, they said only 26% of vaccines that have come into Africa have been used. Today, it has also come out that the Netherlands are going to destroy a significant number of AstraZeneca vaccines because they are not going to use it. I think that is diabolical. So yes, I can see the option there for countries like that. But what I can't see happening is it would be a rush to the wire, because those vaccines will come in with a very, very short expiry date. And that would give logistical challenges. But even then, I am not too sure if we even explore all that routes, we will get enough to meet the numbers we are looking at. So that is where I have a concern.
So, well, the long and short of it is you don't think that we can make the 12 weeks?
The truth of the matter is, if we don't make the 12 weeks, it's not an issue. I have said it. that the data available points to 12 weeks. But there's data up to 16 weeks, which is a bit clear, and there's data up to 24 weeks, which is not very clear, but there's evidence that the antibodies are still there. What I have suggested is that the Ghana Health Service and the likes of Noguchi, KCCR, WACBID may have to monitor the antibody levels of Ghanaians who've been vaccinated to have an understanding of how the longevity of the first dose is playing out, because the data is not very clear. But that doesn't mean that when you get to week 12, because like I've said, I've seen data up to about week 16. So it would be naive for me to sit here and say, if you don't hit week 12, that is the end. In fact, the Joint Committee of Vaccination and Immunization, the JCVI in the UK, actually guidance even for the UK is if you miss week 12, you vaccinate at the next opportune occasion. So all these things are there. So the data is currently a bit fluid. So I am more concerned about how quickly we can get it and how we can monitor the antibody levels. But that's about science and research.
Yeah.
But to say that we are going to hit hard and fast week 12, I wouldn't stick my head out and say that it's going to come by week 12 because the supply chain is very erratic.
All right. Now, should we have probably then used the first consignment of doses that came through to inoculate just enough people for every one of them to have 2 doses each, rather than sharing, as has been done now, where we have 842,000 plus who have just a single dose?
No. It would be very unintelligent if the Ghana Health Service has gone on to give 2 doses to people and leave a large number of people, because the data is clear. If you look at the UK data, only about 12% of the population have got 2 doses. About 67% of the vaccinatable population have got 1 dose. And the drop in cases, mortality and hospitalization is phenomenal. All 3 categories are above 90%. So the more people you can get at least 1 dose into, the better. So anyone who thinks 2 doses for less is thinking about protection of the individual and not protection of the populace. And that would be very, very wrong.
All right. I'll come back to you, but I want to speak with Dr. Franklin Esiedu-Bekoe and to speak to him about the number of cases, positive cases, we're getting at the airport. This has been an issue in the last few days. I want you to tell us what the situation is now. We saw that letter that indicated, the letter from Frontier, that indicated that there were more than 70 cases arriving in a single day. What is the situation now?
Yes, so thank you very much. So I think one thing that, I think before I get to that, one thing that countries are being advised to do is to make sure that they are somehow prepared, that if you get some quantity of vaccines, you try to deploy them as early as possible before they get expired. And that's what we are trying to get vaccines prepared in Ghana. So I think it's an issue I want to put across.
All right.
Because if you look at the last one, we had just less than 2 weeks to get it deployed. And we deployed over 99%. But going to the Kotoka issue, I think that I need to put on record that it's a fluid situation. You know, there are days that you get a reasonable number of positives, then the next day it comes down. Because 2 days ago it was 75, yesterday it was about 3. But what, for us, it tells us the story that there's a threat of the third wave sitting on the doors of the country. But what we are also comfortable about is that at least we have a chief at the airport that tries to somehow detect cases before they enter in the country. And we looking at the data, so it gives us an idea of some reasonable number of countries that could be more at risk to us than others. We haven't fully gotten the picture yet because it varies day by day. So what we're trying to do is that we're trying to have an idea of the possible contacts of all these cases, and then we're also trying to get a record of the high-risk countries, and then we'll issue travel advice to Ghanaians about how to progress. I think that for now, we are confident of our system that we are able to detect cases at source. And let me also say that there's some work being done by Gucci and the University of Ghana and others trying to look at the various variants that are entering the country. This brings to bear that we are not out of the woods yet, so we should still be sticking to the protocol. I think that that's something that we need to stress to Ghanaians, and that's the message for Ghana ourselves to Ghanaians.
All right, you indicate that the situation is still fluid, as in the numbers that are coming in through the airport. Are you able to tell us what the situation is right now? It used to be over 70. What is the situation as of yesterday? And is it getting any better?
Yes, we had 3. So as I said, we had about 45 about 4 days ago, then dropped to 15, then it went to 26, then it went to 75, it came to 3. So the idea is that where are the flights coming from? It also has an influence on the kind of positives.
All right.
So that's why we are trying to study if they have a good trend of the occurrence of the infections at the airport.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Franklin Yesiedu-Bekwai. He is the Director of Public Health at the Ghana Health Service, but I still have Kwame Sarpong Yesiedu on the line. Now, Mr. Sarpong Yesiedu, should we be concerned about the cases that the positives that we're picking up at the airport, considering that there's a third wave in parts of the world?
I wouldn't say we should be. I would have been surprised if we were not picking up these cases at the airports, because you have to, like Kofi said, it depends on the flights that are coming in. What I am happy to hear is that there's sequencing going on, because it will give us a fair idea of the risk we are faced with.
All right. Without
an idea of the risk we are faced with, because depending on the variant, the contagiousness is different, the infectivity is different, and the ability to get people more and more sick is different. Some are very high, some are less. So we need to have an idea what's coming through. But one thing I know the Ghana Health Service is doing, which is a good idea, is the fact that if people come in, like they were saying, they are going to even follow up for those who are negative. Because one concern I had is what we call the latent period, which that one they can test negative, even PCR, get to the airport and test negative again and enter the country, but they'll still be infected.
Right.
That is a real possibility. So if we are then going to monitor them a few days when they get into the country, that's a good idea, because that would exclude that small window that may put the country at risk. Because one thing we cannot afford is what happened during December, especially with what's going on in India, and when we don't know when the vaccine supply chain is going to improve itself. So that's how I'd want to end it. But more importantly, if we want to all get out of this properly, the best bet is to follow the protocols. Because if the people getting infected and you follow the protocols, it only takes 14 days for the whole thing to go away.
All right. Thank you very much, Kwame Sarpong Yesiedu. He is a UK-based pharmacist and he's a fellow of CDD Ghana. Meanwhile, the minority in Parliament has charged government to act swiftly to halt the increasing number of positive COVID-19 cases being recorded at the Kotoka International Airport. Ranking Health Committee member Kwamna Minta Atando attributed the alarming rate to poor testing or fake results from travelers. He also cautioned against asking COVID-19 patients to self-quarantine, arguing it could contribute to a spike in the cases. The Draviso MP, who is requesting of government to consider travel restrictions on countries currently experiencing high COVID-19 infections, insists the government must equally shut down the airport should the trend persist.
If you recall, we started recording cases, I think about 2 cases from that same Kotoka International Airport, and that has brought us this far. You know, the virus is an important one. It's not, the COVID-19 disease is not, a Ghanaian disease. It was imported. And therefore, there's a need for us to check our various borders. That is one of the precautions we must not joke with. And so constantly there has been this test at the Kotoka International Airport, irrespective of where you are coming from. And we have realized, and we are picking information that within the last week, there's an alarming rate of increase in the number of positive cases. I mean, within a day, they could record as many as 75 cases within the day. And if you record 75 cases and you let them go out there, the multiplying effect is huge. And that's why we are drawing government's attention that, look, the rate at which they are recording the cases, the positive cases. We need to do something about it urgently.
What is the something?
Number one, we need to ask certain questions. Number one, before you are allowed to travel, you need to do the test, and then you submit the results at your destination. Now, people come, they submit their negative results at their destination, and they are tested again, and they turn positive. So what could happen? Is it the case that they were infected through, their transit? Or is it the case that we must doubt the authenticity of the results they submitted from their country of origin? What could be the problem? So we must look at that carefully and then find solutions to it.
Information Minister Kojo Nkrumah meanwhile says government is keeping an eye on the spike in the number of COVID-19 positive travelers arriving at the Kotoka International Airport.
Yes,
we are aware. We've been informed about the spike, especially from some countries. So the task force is meeting as soon as possible to take a decision, get the president to approve, and then the travel advisory will be issued.
Watching Journey's Prime, we're taking a break now. The still ahead legal practitioner and chairman of the Electronic Communications Tribunal, Kisie Jabeng, nominated by the Attorney General to replace Martin Amidu as the next special prosecutor. And ECG staff begin nationwide sit-down strike to demand resignation of the managing director, Kwame Agyemang-Budu, who they accuse of not having the best interest of the company at heart. The National Labour Commission, however, says it has directed the staff to call off the strike and channel their grievances formally through the commission. Stay tuned in. We're back in a bit.
And you're welcome to Business. I'm Charles Aite. The aviation economy could come under threat again following the rising numbers of COVID cases. The increasing cases could call for some restrictions on intensification of COVID-19 tests at the Kotoka International Airport. Some aviation experts fear the rise in cases could erode gains made after the further easing of COVID restrictions. Frontiers Healthcare Service has raised an alarm on the increase of number of COVID-19 cases being recorded at the airport. The aviation economy was one of the hardest hit during the peak of COVID-19, growing negatively last year. Its effects on the tourism sector in that regard was very dire. Meanwhile, aviation expert Sean Mendes says that Ghana recording high cases of COVID at the airport is indicative of a robust testing system. Mr. Mendes says he made this remark saying that Ghana's challenge now is the pre-testing failures which could be addressed if the country could designate specific labs for testing.
Situation is really not as bad as some people may be making it out to be. Ghana is one of the only countries in the world which requires a two-step protocol, and that is a really robust protocol which requires that someone must be tested before departing, but also, and most importantly in this case, they are tested immediately upon arrival. And that ensures that people who may have contracted an infection after they tested 72 hours prior to departure, people who contracted an infection during the flight, or people whose tests failed or who have fake certificates or for whatever reason are caught at the airport. The fact that you are seeing 75 cases actually caught at the airport and not being caught in the community with the large spike of infections there is showing that the system actually works. So I think that the first thing is that people, certainly there is a matter of concern to see these large numbers there, but it's not a matter to be completely worried. If you are catching people at the airport, that is a good thing. That means the system is working.
Away from the aviation space, the General Agricultural Workers Union has raised concerns about the regulatory body responsible for checking standards of food sold at the market. According to the General Secretary, Edward Kariwa, some traders tamper with their scales and other equipment used to measure the quantity being sold without the knowledge of the customer. This therefore deprives the customer of getting value for money. There is more in this report.
Speaking at the maiden edition of the Ghanaian Farmer Conference championed by Joy Business, General Secretary of the General Agricultural Workers Union, Edward Kariwa, raised concerns regarding standards regulating food sold on the market.
Because the rules of the stakeholders are not clearly determined by policy and enforced, it leaves us with a chaotic, poorly organized and unregulated agricultural production system. And I would like to ask these questions, which you also know. If you take an example, who sets the standards and enforcement of how food should be handled in the markets.
Country rep for the Continental Free Trade Area, Louis Afol, said AFCFTA will consider bringing back barter trade. This, he said, is to ensure the efficacy of the trade agreement so as not to base everything on monetary sources.
African Continental Free Trade is moving into something we call barter trade system soon. There will be the need for Ghana to depend on maybe Nigeria for certain things without even importing, and Nigeria depend on Ghana for another exchange of products like that. All of us, my last message is that take your time. If you divide the continental free trade among everybody, revenue, each African is to earn about close to $3,000.
Mr. AKB DeYoung, representative of the Ministry of Agriculture at the event, disclosed that the ministry is on course to digitalizing the sector and providing agro-processing facilities.
Our next phase of the value chain development in the food and agricultural sector would be set and led by technology and digitalization agenda, where comprehensive development and utilization of ICT access and usage in the country would be tapped to augment development in the sector. Closely associated with the technology and digitalization is building data interoperability across the value chain.
Researcher at the Crop Research Institute of the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, Dr. Enes Befi, outlined some strategies to improve the institute to ensure the sector fully benefits from research.
The way forward in achieving food security in the country, there is the need for government to increase support for research, and we encourage private sector participation in supporting research, agricultural research activities in the country. We need to recruit more staff to replace the retired ones so that the capacity of staff that is needed is maintained to do what we are mandated to do. There's the need to expand or invest in irrigation facility at the institute, outstation, and also help farmers that may need so to have it. We need to move to climate-smart agriculture going forward so that we can sustain the higher or potential yields of our crops. And there's the need to have a significant growth in our seed industry.
Meanwhile, the Peasant Farmers Association, Ghana Commodity Exchange, and the National Food Buffer Stock Company have shared common sentiments with regards to climate change and its impact on the agricultural sector.
For Business, sports is up next.
Thank you for staying with us on Joy News Prime. Gary L. Smith here with the sport. President Akufo-Addo wants the Black Stars to bring smiles onto the faces of Ghanaians by winning the Africa Cup of Nations and then reaching the semi-finals of the World Cup in Qatar. Next year will be 40 years since the Black Stars last lifted the trophy. That's the AFCON. And remember, they defeated host nation Libya to win the tournament in '82. And since then, they've suffered final heartbreaks 3 times. 1992, 2010, and 2015. However, the president, who was 38 years old the last time the Black Stars enjoyed continental success, has charged CK Akono's side to end that drought in Cameroon next year, having secured qualification last month.
The last time the Black Stars brought the cup back home, the 4th occasion, was 1982, 40 years ago next year. Indeed, next year will witness 2 great competitions affecting the Black Stars, one continental, the other global. The continental is the African Cup of Nations, due to take place in Cameroon at the beginning of next year. Happily, the Black Stars have qualified in grand style for the tournament. We are left with their adequate preparation. The global is the FIFA World Cup, the apex competition of world football, scheduled for June in Qatar of next year. The team has to play 8 World Cup qualifying matches, plus 2 international friendlies in Europe. The target is to bring the cup home next year by winning AFCON 2022. We have to go a step further than the 2nd places recorded in 19 92, 2010, and 2015, and bring the 40-year drought to an end. We must also reach at least the semi-finals of the World Cup in Qatar. Our exploits in South Africa in 2010, where we reached the quarterfinals of the World Cup, tell us that once properly prepared, we have the quality and the talent to match any of the best teams in the world. The task might appear daunting, but it is certainly not insurmountable.
President Akufo-Addo also revealed that Ghana will need $25 million for the 2022 AFCON in Cameroon and the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. Let's listen to him.
The Ministry of Youth and Sports, working with the Ghana Football Association, needs some 25 million United States dollars to realize our objectives for these two major tournaments. Even before the onset of COVID-19, government would have found it difficult to raise this amount by itself. Government, however, is committed to providing 10 million United States dollars of this targeted amount. I'm aware the pandemic has wreaked havoc on all aspects of our national life, affecting revenues of government and many of you, but also resulting in increase in profits for others. We should be reminded of the fact that a successful Ghana in the world's game brings credit and renown to all Ghanaians and Ghanaian businesses and opens up even more doors for Ghanaians and their businesses. Bringing back smiles to the faces of our people is priceless, as the ripple effect will be felt in all aspects of our lives and of our respective organizations. So I'm asking all of you to contribute to raising the balance of this amount, which is 15 million United States dollars.
So you heard the president speak about balance. That is because the president mentioned that the government is committing or pledging $10 million of the $25 million needed, meaning that $15 million is what he's tasking a 5-man committee that he set up to go and look for. So 25 million, government giving 10 million, and then 15 million is what they are going to fund and source for. Moving on, and finally, 4 players of Elmina Sharks have been under suspensions and fines for misconduct in their Ghana Premier League match against Midyama at the Indom Stadium in Elmina. Now, the suspended players are Samuel Arthur, Justice Mensah, Emmanuel Gustav Addington, and Alhaji Mustafa. More on Hans Mensah Ando's show that will be at 10:30. That is Fan Zone. Stay with us for more news now. Gary Al Smith.
The returned bribe scandal. Danger looms on Ho Accra Highway as portion of road caves near Chito. And then 2020 election, the most successful peaceful poll ever organized in the Fourth Republic. That's the EC. For more news on the Joy News channel, do stay tuned in. The opposition NDC has rejected the Electoral Commission's assessment of the 2020 polls. The commission says the exercise was the most successful, peaceful, successful and seamless election in the history of the Fourth Republic. The 2020 polls had results in a number of constituencies disputed, while the presidential election results also required judicial pronouncement to resolve a dispute over the outcome. The death of 5 persons has also been mentioned by election observers as a blot on the nation's image as a beacon of democracy. Dr. Ibn Chambers, who is the immediate past chairman of the United Nations Office for West Africa, is concerned about this. There's more in the following report.
The domestic election observers will in the next 72 hours hold meetings with political party and government representatives, EC officials and experts to assess the 2020 polls. Immediate past chairman of the United Nations Office for West Africa, Dr. Ibn Chambers, who delivered the opening address, had concerns regarding the deaths that occurred during the polls.
I think this time Our image has been tainted in that regard, and it should be of concern to us. One person's life is one person too many to be lost in an election, and that reminds me of former President Goodluck Jonathan of Nigeria, who I think today can be proud for all the criticisms that he may have had while he was in office. That one statement that he made, that a single drop of any Nigerian is not worth his ambition to be president. I think this is something that should inspire all of us in Ghana to ensure that never again will we see any loss of life from elections. And so let's go back to the good practice in the past, where whatever shortcomings there may be with the process, the one thing that would not happen would be any killings around the electoral process.
Cordell agrees with this view.
So that, for us, unfortunately, was more violent than previous ones, even though we had lesser incidents. So, yes, we had the provisional register. We did the...
Director of Training at the EC, Michael Buedu, has been explaining why the commission nonetheless managed the election effectively.
The ballot papers, BVDs, and voter registers were sent to the district 2 weeks before the conduct of the election, as against the past, where these materials sometimes reach their destinations a day to the election. In conclusion, Mr. Chairman, from the foregoing, one can safely conclude that the 2020 presidential parliamentary elections was the most successful, well-coordinated, efficient, seamless, and the most peaceful election organized in the Fourth Republic of Ghana. As an election management body, we are not resting on our oars, but we are committed to improving on our service delivery to the good people of Ghana.
The opposition NDC says the EC must stop heaping praises and focus on fixing challenges.
And then they took upon themselves the need to say they were going to form a new register in the COVID season. What was the sum total of all these? Blatant mistakes were made. One is the disenfranchisement of people in the SAL region. A day before the election, you decide they cannot vote in presidential and parliamentary elections. That actually, on its own, is enough for you to say this was not a free and fair election. Because once you disenfranchise a set of people from the box, it's never happened since '92 that I'm aware of, where people in that number and consistent, really clear group of people have not been allowed to vote. So the language of the EC, we believe, should not be vitriolic. It should be more of we did our best under the circumstances. We know there are changes and things we need to do, and therefore we will go along with that.
The MPP, Peter McMahon, believes the EC's assessment is accurate, but there is room for improvement.
Yes, I agree with them. But like any human endeavor, there's room for improvement. Because you do the comparison between 2020 and 2016, and you could see that there have been major improvements. Nevertheless, there's still room for improvement. And I like to see every election being a better one than the previous one.
A paper summarizing the concerns raised at the forum is to be published at the end.
Legal practitioner and chairman of the Electronic Communications Tribunal, Kissie Jabeng, has been earmarked to replace Martin Amidu as the next special prosecutor. The president has however yet to affirm his nomination to the special prosecutor's office. Kissie Jabeng was nominated by the Minister of Justice and Attorney General Godfrey Dame in a letter to the president on April 16, 2021. And it reads, respectfully, as you would recall, Mr. Martin Alamisi Berens-Kaiser Amidu resigned his position as Special Prosecutor on November 16, 2020. By the letter dated 17 November 2020, the Honorable Chief of Staff, Akosua Frey-Marcel Parry, communicated Your Excellency's acceptance of the resignation of Martin Alamisi Berens-Kaiser Alamisi as Special Prosecutor. Section 13.8 of the Office of the Special Prosecutor Act 2017, Act 959, requires the President to appoint a person qualified for appointment as Special Prosecutor to that position within 6 months of the office of special prosecutor becoming vacant. In accordance with Section 13(3) of Act 959, I hereby nominate Kissie Jabeng, Esquire, for appointment to the position of special prosecutor, subject to the approval of majority of all the members of Parliament. Kissie Jabeng was called to the Ghana Bar in October 2003 and holds a Bachelor of Laws degree from the University of Ghana, as well as Masters of Law degree from the University of Ghana, as well as Masters of Laws degrees from Scarlett School of Law, Dalhousie University, Canada, and Cornell Law School, USA. He has since 2006 been teaching criminal law at the University of Ghana, whilst also engaged in private law practice. I'm satisfied that Kissie Jabeng possesses the requisite expertise on corruption and corruption-related matters, is of high moral character and proving integrity, and satisfies all the other requirements stipulated in Section 13, subsection 1 and 2 of Act 959. Please accept the assurances of my highest esteem. Yours faithfully, Godfred Yeboah-Dame, Attorney General and Minister for Justice. The National Labour Commission has ordered workers of the Electricity Company of Ghana who began a 2-hour daily sit-down strike Monday to immediately suspend the action. The NLC also directed the striking workers to formally report their grievances to the Commission and subject themselves to proper processes for labour dispute resolution. The workers accused the MD, Kwame Agyemang-Budu, of being incompetent and lacking the vision to lead the company. The SAV had issued an ultimatum to begin the nationwide sit-down strike should the MD fail to step down by April 23. We have a copy of the NLC statement ordering the staff to suspend the strike. But first, Manuel Krantz visited some offices in Accra. Here's his report.
The junior and senior staff members of the Electricity Company of Ghana, well, across the country, all offices of ECG across the country have their staff observing this particular position and expressing same. Well, essentially what we've been gathering from some of the workers who have been speaking to us unofficially is that what they want the managing director, Mr. Kwame Agyemang-Budu, out of office. Well, they level a number of allegations against him, essentially making reference to his inability to galvanize support within the rank and file of the company and make it profitable. They accuse him of running a one-man show, and essentially for them that smacks of inefficiency and ineffectiveness at the high office of managing director of this all-important company. And so the notice went out, and it was to the effect that at 8 a.m. today, all staff members, that's junior and senior staff members of the Electricity Company of Ghana across the country, are laying down their tools in a sit-down strike, just protesting the failure of the board of the company to act on a petition that they had sent to them earlier in the years. That particular petition actually gave the board of the company up until 23rd April 2021. That was last Friday. Also today, for failing to have acted on that petition, the workers are laying down their tools to sort of armstrong the board to, if not immediately act on it, at least give indications of its intention to act on the petition that they brought to it. Well, I've been here for about an hour or so, and I've observed that everything seems to be going on smoothly. This particular building, office complex, is shared between the Volta River Authority and then the Electricity Company of Ghana, so Electro Volta House. Incidentally, though, the Volta River Authority is celebrating its 60th anniversary, and so even though in the same office complex you're having ECG workers protesting the continuous stay of their managing director in office, the VRA section is making merry. Gathered from some of the workers is that there's a high-level meeting that is currently going on between the leadership of the staff and the leadership of management. We are learning that this conversation is being had around the petition that was brought to the board of ECG on the status and continuous stay of Mr. Kwame Agyemang-Budu in office as managing director of the Electricity Company of Ghana. We've not been
Well, that meeting, we're learning, ended inconclusively. But my colleague Ernest Menu joins me with a copy of the NLC statement ordering the workers to immediately abandon their strike. Ernest, what exactly does the statement say?
Well, Israel, the statement says that the National Labour Commission's attention has been drawn to the demand for a sit-down strike by the unionized workers of the ECG over a call for the removal of the managing director of the ECG effective today. That is Monday, 26 April 2021, between the hours of 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Now, the Commission, in exercise of its powers under Section 139, is directing the workers to reverse the decision and channel their grievances to the Commission through the National Union to be properly placed before them for redress. And so the National Labour Commission is hereby advising all to ensure that the proper processes in the resolution of the workers' grievances are adhered to, and a call for a halt of this industrial action. And it is signed by the Executive Secretary of the NLC, Ofosua Samoa.
Ernest Menu with that update. The nation is estimated to lose millions of cedis through long hours of vehicular traffic. Workers are said to be less productive as a result. The roads leading to the central region town of Kasoa remain one of the most traffic-prone in the country. As part of our Joy News agenda, my colleague Joseph Akable has been engaging drivers and experts on the cost of spending hours to complete a journey that should not take more than 35 minutes. Here's his report.
The hours of 9 and 10 a.m., the roads leading to Kasoa are simply free of vehicular congestion. At the main bus terminal at Kwame Nkrumah interchange, drivers simply cannot find passengers for the journey to commence.
By this time, the
situation is different in the evening when workers close and early morning when they are heading to work. Isaac Bondi has been plying the road for 12 years.
Kasoa is not far. It should take about 35 minutes. But with the traffic, you need a minimum of an hour and a half. We spend a lot on fuel.
Transport analyst Dr. Ernest Ajiman believes rail can be an option.
So people are already desirous to have a change in the inefficient status quo that we have from the trotro-dominated public transit to a mass transit, provided it's going to not crawl in traffic like President Dayelolo is doing. But I guess rail will not have any issue with traffic. So then I think that's something that people will be willing to switch and use.
The central regional town of Kasoa is home to more than 370,000 people. It is approximately 30.9 kilometers by road from the capital of Accra, and depending on the traffic situation, it can be a journey completed in 56 minutes or at good times 35 minutes. During peak traffic hours, one can expect a minimum of 2 hours travel time. Harry Enim Harrison is a driver who knows the roads leading to Kasoa quite well. I joined him for a trip to Kasoa. It is 5:40 p.m. Our journey commences from the taxi terminal under the Kwame Nkrumah interchange. Harry explains why he moved to live at Kasoa.
I have my project there, and I wanted to get closer to it and monitor it, and probably finish it in time. So I moved there. I rented an apartment there, close to my project or my site, so that I will be able to, go there frequently.
Look out for the rest of that journey on our social media handles. We're taking a break now to bring you more business news.
In business, the Ghana Revenue Authority is going after oil exploration firms said to have evaded tax payments running into billions of dollars. Some firms in the extractive sector that have also failed to meet their tax obligations have also been targeted. Joy Business is learning that some multinational firms operating in the oil sector have failed to secure a tax clearance certificate for when they have to exit from the country. Reverend Amishada Owusu-Amoah is the Commissioner General of the GRA.
Of also people
actually some of the OMCs taking the taxes and the fuels, and then after you and I have bought and have paid for it, then they are unable to or unwilling to pay their taxes. Now, these are areas that we have identified, and we are actually insisting that the OMCs, in fact, we are coming out with various initiatives, and we'll announce them very soon. And these are initiatives that we have discussed at very high levels as far as the country is concerned. And therefore, we are going to implement this initiative, ensure that every OMC that is involved in the buying and distribution of fuel pays every peswa. And also we are going to do a very, very strong compliance in terms of the fact that if you have any outstandings, whatever we need to do, including if you have to garnish. In fact, for the first time last year, when you were asked about some of the things that we did last year, for the first time in this nation, we garnish insurance companies.
Let's now bring you a summary of international business news. And that'll be it for business. I'm Charles Aite.